Hello and welcome to Good Journeys Tarot. Today we are going to be talking about this card, the Ace of Pentacles, in our 78 Cards in 78 Weeks project, where I'm putting together imagery for my own tarot deck. And glad that you are here or watching this in playback. As I always do, I'm going to start today by telling you what's new at Good Journeys Tarot and Rosemary, your reader. I have spent most of the last several days rebranding, and adding some interesting new things to my website and my program of operations, so to speak. So let's take a look. This is my link tree. So if you want to be sure that you are following the real Rosemary and accept no other substitutes, this is where you can go to get all of the links for me and Good Journeys Tarot. We're going to just show you a few of the things I've added. One is a newsletter. You can either subscribe through the link tree or you can subscribe via the website. Let's take a look at the website. The website has been rebranded to match all of my social media. You're now going to get your little cookie notification. So all you have to do is tell it how long you want it to last and which one you want, and save it, and it'll always be down here for you to update or change at any time. And then here at the bottom is that newsletter subscription that I told you about. Another thing that I've done this week is I have done a blog post, which is something that I tend to do in February and March of every year, and then I get sidetracked and don't do anymore for the year. But I'm going to commit to trying to do one at least every quarter when I send out my newsletter about what's going on at Good Journeys Tarot. There is an image here of the cover of the guidebook. It's going to be called Dear Diary, a guide to Good Journeys Tarot first draft, which is what I'm calling the deck at the moment. And there's this week I have posted what the guidebook's going to actually look and feel like there when you actually see it for this specific card, the Four of Wands. And at the bottom of the page, there's actually a place where you can comment. You can give me your thoughts on the guidebook, on the images, whatever you would like. You also are welcome to email me anytime at goodjourneystarot@gmail.com to give me your thoughts on anything that's going on my channel. I think I will know I have arrived when I start getting criticism, because then I know people are paying attention, right? So today I am excited to have with me a special guest to talk about the Ace of Pentacles. You probably already know this, but it is our friend, Tarot Stash. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you so very much for having me. This is wonderful. What a privilege. So I have been enjoying your 78 cards in 78 weeks since we talked about it. I think that's awesome. Woohoo.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm having a great time doing it, and am actually making progress towards something I have been wanting to do for going on 15 years.
I love that.
Yeah. So we are talking about the Ace of Pentacles today, and of course, that being one of the cards of beginnings in the tarot associated with Earth. And I thought we'd start by looking at some of our favorites, and I thought maybe I'll show one, and then you can show one, and so on. So let's go with... I actually chose not to show clones of the RWS, but things that were slightly different. Like there are several decks that do this type of thing with hands holding the pentacles or plants, which is kind of iconic. And when I think about the aces, I think about icons, about that singular image that kind of represents the suit. This happens to be
Mhm.
the Modern Love, which I would probably work with every day if it was regular tarot size.
Can you trim it?
No, unfortunately, it's gilded, and part of the images would be cut off. So,
Okay. Hmm.
so how about you? What are some of the ones that you love?
Well, this was the first tarot deck that I actually was given. It is the Inner Child cards, Fairy Tale Tarot, and this is the it's the Ace of Crystals. And so so I associate unearthing things and rainbows and crystals, and this really feels to me like an earth suit and things with the physicality of the world and in which we live. So there's that.
Yeah. In addition to crystals, sometimes we get decks that call them stones or
Yep.
coins, are
Mm-hmm.
all things that people associate
Yeah.
with this particular suit of Earth. Um, in the Spacious Tarot, they actually use a seed,
Yeah.
which I think is lovely.
Love that.
Again, that kind of icon.
Mm-hmm.
And then in this particular deck, Fyodor Pavlov, he went with kind of a harvest theme.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I have do you have the Way Home Tarot?
I do not.
I like this image for it.
Oh, that's
So
beautiful. It
yeah.
reminds me a lot of the Lily White, which I do not have out because I had some other images that were similar to that with the seed growing
Mm-hmm.
out of the
Yeah.
pentacle, that type of thing.
So
Gorgeous.
yeah. And I like how when you look at the roots, they could also be hands clasping up. I think it's just a really, really a pretty image. So
Yeah. It reminds me a bit of this one from the Lost Hollow. It's kind of hard to see on here, but there's actually a tree growing out of the pentacle and up through the dirt
oh
into the
yeah.
sky. It has the mountains in the background, which is also something we tend to associate with our suit of Earth or Pentacles.
Mm-hmm. And the next one I have, and I don't know if you had this one, Rosemary, Terror of the She.
I do not.
This is my trimmed version. It is Maker Earth. And so this is one where we actually see someone interacting with the environment. So I find that one rather interesting, especially because, there's so much going on in the image. It's quite interesting.
That's
So,
gorgeous.
yeah.
So these next two also kind of capture that harvest feeling. Of course, the Green Witch with the farm, which is gorgeous, and the pentacle up in the sky. And then the Goblin Tarot, which is actually a pig farm.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
Getting
Interesting.
back to that kind of idea of muck and mire that things grow out of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this one is from the Mott Tarot by Julia Cushia Watts. And it's the Ace of Coins. So there's earth, there's lots of things growing, there's the coin, and it's a season of summer. So I like how around we have things typically associated with the pentacles, which are, new growth and seedlings. So I think
Right.
that's really this is a new one, and that's come to my collection.
Well, the next three cards that I have in my hand are cards that, for me, are a little bit of a problem. Not, and I do work with these decks. I do love them, but I really don't like seeing people in the aces
Okay.
because I feel like that the aces are about the epitome of the element and not so much about the person in
Mm-hmm.
the tarot. And so, in the Sorcerer Bito, there's this image with the coin on the
Right.
um, forehead, and then in Benabel Wynn's deck, the Spirit Keepers Tarot. This happens to be the second edition. There's also this image of a person. I didn't mind it so much in this one because it was just the head and the corner there. But in the newer version, it's actually the full figure of the spirit present.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is the Lightworkers deck, and it's not one that I have seen very many videos about on YouTube.
Oh,
The
okay.
reason being is that it's specifically linked to a tarot learning website. So you have to purchase the subscription to the
Oh,
website
okay.
to get the deck. Right now it's on sale for $50, and so I got it at StarCon. The creator is wonderful. Her name is Grace Callis. And Wednesday at 2, I will be doing a live with her to talk about this deck, which she created specifically for beginners, as well as her website. And it actually includes the references for
Oh,
keywords. It also has the elements in the background. And she also put little yes or no markers on the cards for people who do yes and no
very
questions.
interesting.
So we're
Uh-huh.
going to talk a little bit about how she made those determinations. Because I
Okay.
find that many times people read the tarot for yes or no differently than they would cartomancy, say, with a deck of playing cards.
Mm-hmm.
So traditionally, the black cards, the clubs and the spades being no, and the red cards being yes. But when you line those suits up in the tarot, it doesn't quite connect because most people consider wands a yes, even though wands are typically associated with clubs in cartomancy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. But I did kind
Yeah.
of like how, the tree is growing out of her head, with
Uh-huh.
the pentacle. But having people in the cards is not one of my favorite things as far as
And
the aces go.
Amy Strength Reversed agrees, no people.
Mhm.
So
Thank you,
I
Amy.
I have the 5 cent tarot. I don't know if you have this one, but this is the Ace of Buttons, and I appreciate that it's still round, and it's a different version of it, and fertility, and it has the keywords around it, and so I appreciate how that works together.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, and
This card actually throws me a little bit because they chose to do their suit of earth as tomes, i.e., books.
okay.
And while the imagery does connect with the card's meanings, I tend to think of books as being like the air suit. And so that kind of threw me a little bit, but
Hmm.
they actually have, the crystals there and the labyrinth as like that
Oh yeah.
path you're beginning, that hint to that
Hmm.
arch inner garden.
Yeah. Okay. Um, this one may be a little controversial. This is from the Voyager Tarot, which is a deck I really like, and this is the Ace. And Ace of Worlds. And for me, it says success at the top, so it has a keyword. I just appreciate the layers. And that's me. Not everybody does this deck, and some people struggle with it, but I thought I would show that. So
It's a beautiful image. Although, with my first thought was, okay, there's too many orbs, too many,
yeah,
symbols
yeah,
for the ace, right?
yeah. It's not a singular. It's not, it's not one.
Hmm.
So yeah.
So I'm down to
But,
2 cards, and these are my favorite depictions of the Ace of Pentacles or Earth.
okay.
But they're totally different. One focuses on money, and the other one focuses really on the earth and things growing and that type of thing. But this is the Slow Tarot. And it's actually the
Hmm.
only card I found in my deck that really associated the pentacles with wealth or money.
Oh.
There are a few other things in here, like rings with stones and keys, which are also made out of metal. And there's also a die which has 1 on it for aces, right?
Nice.
And I love this card. It's beautiful, and it's iconic, which I like to see in my aces. And yeah, and it was totally different than everything else in my collection right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
The last one is the Bonestone and Earthflesh,
Okay.
where the old skull has a plant growing out of it from the earth. I just think this is gorgeous. I actually have this sticker on my laptop. I just loved it. This is the probably my favorite. I mean, the slow tarot is beautiful, but I feel like this really captures the essence of the Ace of Pentacles or Earth.
And I have, I will only show 2 more. Okay. I have the Santa Muerte, which is a skull. And do you not, are you a person who can't connect with this deck very well?
So it's gorgeous. And I have it on my wish list, but I haven't bought it yet because I usually think about buying it around Halloween.
Right.
But every time I see photographs of it on Instagram, I'm like, okay, I need to go buy it today. And I'm like, well, no, I'll wait. It's not one that I'm going to use every day, you know, and then Halloween comes around and then I decide not to buy it again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I'm, I'm not enabling you, but the aces in this deck are all skulls. So, and I do not own the slow tarot.
Yeah, it is lovely. Obviously, Ben has a problem with math as well as blushing. And so he has 20 in his top 10.
Well, Ben could just show up here and, have a conversation with you about it, about stuff. So, but, there you go. I was going to mention the Robin Wood Ace of Pentacles, but I'm not going to.
Well, Amy would be very excited about that because she loves that deck.
Do you have this book? Do you have the deck, Rosemary?
I do not. I have thought about getting it several times. I think it's on my wish list also on Amazon, which I showed earlier. It's on my link tree. FYI.
Because get the book, because I think one of the things that I appreciate about it is the completeness in which she talks about it. So yes, I do remember that, Amy. And okay, so I'm short-circuiting. Here's the Bonefire and Bonefire Tarot. That's this one.
Yeah.
So, and I like that because it is crystal and all of that stuff. So it's amazing. This is my modified. So
yeah, I've looked at it several times and almost purchased it, but haven't yet. I think it's also on that wish list of cards. So feel free at any time to show any other cards that you might like. I thought we would go ahead and jump in a little bit about the card's meaning and
yes,
and a little bit of information about it. Obviously this is the beginning of the suit of Earth, and so it does get associated with things like stones and crystals and plants and seeds and that type of thing. One of the things in my reading that really stuck out to me was the idea that this card is not connected with spiritual matters, at least in like the RWS. This is the only card that does not have any yods. Those little leaves or fires that you see in all of the other aces connecting them to the divine. This one is not. This is about the worldly matters, the mundane. And there's a certain magic in the everyday. that's different than the magic we experience with, say, the divine or higher self or that type of thing.
And I think I always with the Ace of Pentacles, like you said, it's a start, it's a new beginning. And it is a very physical thing. So it's either like your environment, your physical body, how you support yourself with finances. So you're absolutely right. It's definitely physicality. So I agree with that. Yeah.
And
That's neat.
there's this idea also that, we are of the earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. And so it is a very physical thing. We talk about the wands being about vitality. However, this is actually about our health, like not necessarily how active we are, but just being alive and
Right.
connected with the world around us. In this particular card, there are a few symbols that stand out. I never really thought much about the lilies other than thinking it's a garden, right? But the lilies actually are there to represent purity and new beginnings, which is what we get with all of the aces to a degree. And then, of course, we have the gate there, which is about a path to additional knowledge.
Right.
Which I hope I have captured a little bit in my card, which we'll look at a little later. And then obviously the garden itself being about, the potentiality for growth.
Right.
Things are fertile for abundance and prosperity.
Yeah.
And that type of thing.
And in the Robin Wood, you're absolutely right. The pentacle is so huge. You can still see the path and the pedestal and the environment around it. And as I always think about aces, is this: they contain everything of the suit in one card, and that's I think really an interesting thing to keep in mind as I look at aces. I'm going through a phase loving retro decks at the moment.
Yeah, I actually have thought about getting the Moon Baby because I really did want to find a copy of the Hoi Polloi at some point, but it's available less and less. I think that all the collectors have it that have it available. So that's on a list somewhere to be considered at some point when there's extra money. Yeah, so this is not, it's one of the things that came up in my reading a lot is that it's not just about the beginning of abundance or prosperity or a new healthy lifestyle or whatever the case may be, but it's also about the manifestation of those things. It's the manifestation of prosperity and success, hence that key word on one of your cards of success. But also it can be related to like a job offer or a promotion. We usually think about like the wands as career, but the pentacles as work. So like our actual physical, what we do, how we pay our bills versus what we enjoy doing. At least for me.
Yeah. I also, I didn't hear you say it, but I also think of Earth or Pentacles as tradition, things that are established. They're not in process. So it's the wisdom, it's the family things that you do consistently. So, the Ace of Pentacles picks up, and I think of that song from Fiddler on the Roof, Tradition. And I'm not going to sing it. Don't ask me to. But so that's something that I keep in mind also. So.
Yeah, I actually haven't ever thought about it that way, but I suppose the ace really does encompass all of the pentacles. And so it could, normally I would associate that with, say, like the 10.
Sure.
And so, but that energy is still present in the
Hmm.
Ace.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I did with my version of the card that we're going to look at in just a moment is I decided to connect it with the 9, image wise, because the 9 is almost the fulfillment of the Pentacles.
Uh-huh. Hmm.
But it's the last card before the Pentacles actually sort of kind of connect with something outside of the world of the earth, or the mundane, where
Hmm.
we see the tree of life overlaid on the card, at least in the Smith Wade and in a lot of
Sure.
other decks. And so that's what I attempted to do in the creation of my card. Let me, oh, let's see. There we go. Pull that up. Window, share. Okay, and so that was what my 9 of Pentacles looked like. The 9
Oh,
little
uh-huh.
stones and the rose garden. And
Hmm.
so when I created my card, I used those same roses and stones. And I
Uh-huh.
decided to draw on this idea of leaving the garden to greener pastures, to a new path, new discoveries. And so that's why, like, the background is actually brighter than the foreground, is
Oh,
because
nice.
these are new things that we're going to look for. And I kind of imagine that when we get to some other cards in the Pentacles, that we'll see the roses again, perhaps in the 7, for sure. Um, so there's some sense that we are moving through the suit, right? And connecting the
Right.
various cards.
I like that. I like that intention to connect it, because for me, Rosemary really does link the Ace as having all of that in of the suit. So that's beautiful.
So this was one where I attempted to connect it with this original image, which is quite lovely and I don't really have any issues with. But I couldn't find a good arch. So I actually created an arch with like limbs above, hopefully
Yes.
to give that kind of idea that we are leaving the rose garden,
Hmm.
so to speak.
Yes.
So, what would you love to see in the Ace of Pentacles if you were creating your own?
Oh, if I were creating my own, I would want to see the start of a lot of things. I want to see lots of seedlings. I want to see this rich earth, this it's like the tip of the iceberg. So the idea of a gem in, you only see the point of it, but underneath there's so much more. So it's the idea of the iceberg. um I want to see a lot of greenery in it, but I want to see gold or silver because it helps me to remember that physicality and that monetary aspect of it. So,
Okay, sure.
but
I don't actually see that monetary aspect in a lot of cards. That's why the slow tarot really stood out for me.
hmm.
Uh, and I'm thinking about it, and I'm not the only. I think that perhaps if I could have found the right arch, that might be a way to bring that in. In the
Hmm.
9, I use the pillars to kind of bring in that idea of luxury and wealth.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Um, and perhaps I just need to put one of those columns in there, maybe at the side, one of the sides, maybe, that would draw that in.
Well, I also life is like a board game. What I love about this is, it's starting stable avenue, which is, it's like, yes, that's the feeling I want from the Ace of Pentacles. Especially, I don't read reversals, but I think, okay, here you go, do it. So
Yeah. Let's see how that.
it has to look
All right.
lush, is what
So
she said.
yes,
Vibrant and
yes,
beautiful.
lush
Yeah.
and alive. And
Yeah.
I did color it. It wasn't a lot to color, but I did actually
Yeah.
kind of like color the path in so that you can actually
Mm-hmm.
get the idea of the path. And there's those mountains, and perhaps that's what's missing in my card are the mountains in the background, like connection to Earth and um,
Is is the archway of that duplicated in the Nine of Pentacles?
in this
But from
card.
the other side, in
Mm,
that deck.
no, I think. Let me look. Here we go.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, that's perfect. It is not. It's actually a vineyard scene.
Oh, okay. Okay.
With the mountains behind the grapevines.
Yeah. But I like how you're connecting it to the nine, and having an archway in the background or something like that could let you know you're starting to walk to that lush garden.
Sure, absolutely. So I thought, if you don't have any other thoughts on this card right now, that I would show everyone another thing that I worked on this week. I really got a creative bug for some reason and was up really, really late Thursday. So late, in fact, I had to take a day off Friday.
Oh
And
my.
then up again late on Friday, and then all day yesterday was working on that website and other stuff. But I decided that I wanted to revisit some of the cards, and I started by revisiting all the cups I've created so far
Uh-huh.
and trying to figure out a way to connect all of them. And my thought was that they all needed to have a lot of blue in them. And this card just didn't have any blue.
Mm-hmm.
It's red and orange. It's really harvesty, which is a implication of that three of cups,
Right.
because it does have those gourds and stuff in it, but that I needed to try to connect it with the others some. And so I recolored it blue. Um, Not 100% sure
Oh,
if it works yet, but I thought that that might um, feel a little more like water. I
it does, yes.
Mhm, mhm. And so this is
Hmm.
the process that I'll be going through for the next year and 4 months. Um, as I try to finish it and make them all kind of cohesive and everything. So this week, I am going to be on Wednesday doing a live, as I mentioned previously, with Grace Callis about her
Mm-hmm.
deck, and it is the Lightworkers deck, and her site is tarotskills.com.
Uh-huh.
And we'll be talking about that as well. Right now is probably the most affordable that deck's ever going to be. If anybody's interested in it,
Sure.
check out that video on Wednesday right here on YouTube. Don't forget, everyone, to check out the link tree for all of my links and sign up for the newsletter to find out what's going on, because I inevitably will forget to mention something on YouTube.
Do
And
it. Do it. I do have my notifications set, Rosemary, so that I find out, so I know when you're going live.
Mhm,
So
mhm, mhm.
because
Yeah,
like
and
that's what all the cool kids are doing.
right. Well, thank you. And don't forget, everyone, to turn on your notifications for Tarot Stash as well. He does a really great job of reminding everyone to like and subscribe and set that little bell off. And I always forget. I
That's
feel
why
like
I'm
you're
here.
like, I feel like you are like the what 14th doctor maybe. You're looking out for everybody, taking care of us,
I'm
right?
waiting for them to call me. I'd be happy to do that. Can you imagine my outfit? Holy mackerel. Wow.
It would be
Ooh, wouldn't that be?
amazing.
It would be amazing. And okay, can we have a geeky moment?
Sure, absolutely.
Wouldn't it be amazing to have a Doctor Who tarot?
It actually would be an interesting deck. We actually just over on at the StarCon after party, as it were, on Excel events, we've been discussing a Star Trek tarot deck,
Mm-hmm.
which there actually is a next generation deck coming out.
I have heard that,
Um,
yes.
and but this was actually encompassing all of the various shows in one deck.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to hear people's thoughts about who would be what cards.
Yeah.
I think with the Doctor, that would be interesting as well.
And you'd have different doctors and things like that too. So, and then different storylines. So, did you see Jonathan and Amy's comments about the card?
Yes, I did. So, and I actually looked at possibly keeping the floor that orange carpet, and I'll probably still play with that some more.
Mhm.
And then Amy, of course, said she did like the blue.
Yeah.
So that's about it for the Ace of Pentacles and what's been going on with me this week. So all that remains is to reveal this week's card. So before I do, everyone watching out there, if you would like to come on and do exactly what Tarot Stash did today and talk about a card with me and share some of your insights and wisdom, please, please reach out to me
Do
either in the
it.
comments for the video or through Linktree or my website, Good Journeys
Do it.
Tarot at gmail.com. It's Good Journeys
Mhm.
Tarot everywhere. So if you
Everywhere.
see anything other than Good Journeys Tarot, no dashes, no asterisks, no numbers, anything like that, that's me.
Hmm.
So our card for next week, which I know someone's going to be excited to talk about with me, right, is the
Yes.
Three of Swords.
There you go, kids. Wow.
Yes. So I thought I
Wow.
dreaded doing the Emperor card. This is the card. This is the card I've been most dreading. And
Really? Okay. Okay.
yeah, it's not a card I've ever related to very much. And so, oh, look at there. Amy has volunteered. Okay, I'm going to hold you to that. I will be reaching out to you after the broadcast today and setting that up for next Sunday, 1 p.m.,
Love
same
it.
time. Okay.
Yes.
And Amy will help me get through this Three of Swords that I have always
Yeah.
found so difficult. In fact, most cards do a version of this, right? I mean, with the three swords through a heart somewhere, they might put the heart
Mhm.
on a person
Right.
or something. But I do have a favorite card for this that finally connected me to it a little bit. And
Really?
the idea of
Okay.
bereavement and loss. And so look forward to seeing that next week when Amy from Strength Reverse will be joining me. And if you
Yay.
would like to do the same for any given week, feel free to reach out to me and I'll let you know what the card is when we get there.
Yeah.
All right.
Get into it now.
Thank you
Because, you know,
so much for joining me, Tarot Stash. I'm so
thank
glad I
you.
finally had you on my channel, and I look forward to working with you again in the future.
Yay.
Until next time, everyone, good journeys.